Dr. Berry, licensed psychologist, and here I share legal and entertainment news from a psychological perspective. Some of you may not know that my mom and we used to have a podcast, and I still added this to our podcast playlist. So if you wanted to go out and check out our Legacy Moments podcast, because we used to do this on a weekly basis, and I think there's somewhere like 50 episodes or so. So if you want to go back, please check out that playlist. But I'm a psychologist and this is my mom. So I will let my mom introduce herself.
I am Johnnie Lloyd. I'm the mindset maven. And what I do is I'm a speaker, author, coach, right? And so what I do is help people bridge the gap between what they do and what they know because it's a huge gap in so many cases. So I help them from a neurological perspective. I am a neural change practitioner and a neural health practitioner, as well
But
as a bunch of other stuff.
but it's not a because that was like a coaching certification because I like to clarify that it's not like a medical
No, I do
certification. Does
not
that make
have,
sense? Yeah.
yeah, it's from, purely, coaching and,
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. And today, so someone in the audience asked us to talk about transitions, specifically retirement. And they were really feeling like this next stage in their life. They didn't want to feel like everything was over. And we've done past episodes talking about the grief that can come up with transitions and change. But I thought you were the perfect person to talk with about this because with your transition to retirement, you've talked about retiring to purpose. Can you talk with me about that?
Yes, and the key with that is even when I left the position that I was in, it was the best position I ever had and all of that. Retirement to purpose just leads me to this next, legacy of my life. So instead of most people do RIP, and I said rest retirement in place. And so they leave their lives right there. But then you have people like the person who asked the question who says there's got to be more. So where I did is I went from success to significance,
Hmm.
to live and leave a legacy. Legacy is not just about money. Legacy happens in every area of our lives. It's just a matter of what you desire to leave and how you intend to live and leave a legacy.
And the thing that I like that you've done is that you are now able to put your time into the things that are important. So, something that you did for us, which was incredibly helpful for us, is right as you retired, was when I had our first child, and you were our daycare for those first 18 months. And you did a great job of setting a boundary of like, hey, he's moving around more. I can't be as productive. There are some things that I want to do, and you were like, you need to find a daycare for him. And I appreciated you setting that boundary. Our agreement was 2 years. I know. I was like, I know. There are some misconceptions
There's a
about what
story behind this, y'all. This is a real story behind this. Go ahead.
she told me 2 years. So I am my mom's only child, and my husband is his parents' only child as well. And I had him. I was 34, about to turn 35. I think you were content with like whether you would get grandkids or not. I know y'all both wanted them, but there might have been some not there might have been some creative asking and planning on my part to get you to agree to those 2 years. But with setting that boundary, it was so that you could then do some things that you had your eye on. And because some people with retirement, some people can get depressed, can get sad, there can be some grief. A lot of times we find our purpose in what we do. And in what when we do that, we no longer have that job, there can be this crisis of identity, of who am I without this job? I will tell you all, when I graduated with my doctorate, I was unemployed for about for wow, from May to August, I believe, or May to September. I was an unemployed doctor. It was right at the market crash of 2009. Because of my internship, there were certain requirements that my job so I had to work in like a public health setting or a community-based program. And there was some identity of like I'm technically, I'm working towards licensure, but I have this title of doctor now, but I don't have like a role. And so that can often cause some problems. Go ahead.
This is what I love. Number one, I love the title because the title is transition. And so when you brought up grief, which is so important, when we transcend, we're transcending, we're going to another level. That doesn't mean up, out. It doesn't mean that. It means that you're shifting from what you know to typically an unknown space, something that you don't have as much control, as much power on. So when you transition, it is a place that you can have grief. I love what you said about the fact that you are an unemployed doctor. People like,
What?
yeah, it's true. And this is what Patrice did to me. So I'm gonna deal with it for just a moment. I didn't retire to take care of
Yeah.
my grandson. I just want to make that clear. That was not what I was doing. However, sometimes when you come in a retirement mode, for me, because I was going, I was like the ever ready bunny, except that I was ever ready, always moving, always shifting, always learning, all of that, right? So when I went to thought about retirement, it had to be for something. So it was to purpose. Now I had no idea that part of my purpose was to take care of my grandson. If somebody had have told me that in advance, I'll say, nope, I was making the most money I ever made
Yeah.
doing the easy stuff I never do. I'm not taking care of him. Thank you for the opportunity. However, sometimes when you shift and you transition, it can be painful. It can be, you will see grief and other emotions come up. However, you keep on moving forward because when you look back, you say, okay, I get it. During that 18 months, and Patrice alluded to it, is that I said, wait a minute, I'm not getting as much done as I thought. But I slowed down.
Yeah.
I learned to breathe. I learned that I had this other person depending on me, this little person, and she's I okay, so y'all, I'm just gonna pause to just say I had to send her and her
Proof of
husband
life. Proof of
proof
life.
of, this is how bad I am, to send proof of life every day.
On
You hear me?
demand whenever I
Proof
wanted it.
proof of life. Does that tell you anything? So my thing is not that I was irresponsible. I'm an
No.
amazing grandmother. I'm an
Yeah.
amazing mother. However, my goals, everything were connected to my job and
Yes.
what I did, how I performed, what the results I got. And I had to face those things and say, okay, now what? So in that time period, I did a book, I did some
Oh,
other things. However, I had to find my place that I could feel calm and enjoy this next step in my life. Okay, go ahead, Patrice. I saw you raise.
no, because the thing I was gonna say is that proof of life, it wasn't because you weren't a phenomenal mom, Gigi, it was more my anxiety. So last night we did an episode talking about severe anxiety,
I
and I
saw part
talked
of that.
about having like a panic attack as I was signing my kid up for school because I was losing control. And
Right.
so it was just it was about control.
And I like the way the lady said it. She said, when people give you all these different ideas of what to do, it's because they've never had a panic attack. They don't know what
Yeah,
that means, right?
yeah, yeah.
So you can do things to help regulate mental clarity, all of those things. However, I want anybody who's going through a transition to sit for a moment with the emotions. I'm not saying stay there, but to understand that the emotions are real that you're feeling. And then the question is for me is now what? Now what? And it's not how. Notice I didn't say how. I said now what? What gives me value? Because for me, and I'm sure for other people, I had this nucleus of people that were around me, but they were actually connected to what I was doing, how I was performing, the job I had. Well, I worked in Washington. So coming, people weren't following me an hour and a half to where I live, right? They weren't doing that. And yes, I still connect with some people, but I had that as a loss or a
Yeah.
place of grief because I didn't have that. And then we can talk about the power aspect of it, the control. All of those things were a change. So I had to make some shifts.
And so with the losing certain, because sometimes when you retire, you realize who was really just a work friend, because sometimes our relationships are based on proximity. And I know that happened for me when I launched my own private practice. There are relationships that I had that I was pretty sure, oh my gosh, like I'm going to have these relationships forever. And we're still like Facebook friends. And so we still like each other's posts, but we don't get together on a regular basis. There isn't the hanging out in the cooler. And so you have to then set up a new support system. You have to be intentional about it. I will try to see if I can find, there was a phenomenal interview with Trevor Noah and someone else. And so I'm while we're chatting, I'm gonna see if I can find it, and I'll make sure to put it in the chat and then also in the description. Um, Let me pause this. All
So
right.
let me give a couple points, if I
Mhm.
can, of things to do. So some of the things that help me is create a recreate or redesign your life.
Mhm.
Redesign it if you can before you go into transition, but definitely when you start feeling anxious or concerned or whatever, just take a moment and play with the possibilities of the time, the energy, the effort, your resources. Then, so do a vision board. And that doesn't mean it has to be work related. It can be fun related. What are you going to do with this next in this next season of your life, right? Or in this transition. And then reach out. And I did mentoring. I'm a score mentor. I became a score mentor. I worked at the YMCA. I did all this stuff. Then one moment I got up and I said, "You putting a lot of free time out there, silly sister
So
girl. You
so it was
putting a lot of
almost
free time."
like you created a new job in retirement almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was after Langston, right?
Mhm.
So I wanted to feel like there was usefulness in my
Am
life.
am I wrong that your generation didn't necessarily value rest if I'm
I've heard you say that before, by the way. Anyway, because I watched Patrice's stuff, and so she said I was talking that somebody
no, no, no,
didn't
because
value rest.
if you came home and I was doing nothing, now granted, there were things for me to do.
Yeah, tell the whole matter. Praise the Lord. Okay, go ahead.
So if you came home and the house was dirty and I was watching TV, that would trigger some anger, agitation, frustration.
You know what? So let's talk about this. This is a deal, and you may find this when you have a stay at home. You may be a male and have a stay at home mom. You may, or vice versa. However, you're working your life out. You may think now that you're in retirement, you have to produce. My So I'm gonna answer her question. I was raised by parents, especially my mom, that was profitable, productive, and she loved people. So that's my DNA. So when I went to work, I was productive. When I was staying at the house and watching Langston, watching my grandson, I was like, this is not productive.
But you were doing the thing though, and yeah,
But I had to change my mindset
yeah.
to what is productive. Right now, I know that resting is productive. Me playing with crafts is productive. And when I say productive, I'm not saying what you get at the end of it.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's a time for my mind to rest. It's a time for me to just enjoy, to make me part of my I'm gonna say, I don't want to say to-do list, but make me part of a priority moving forward. And it's okay not to have my laptop or read a book or do all those things. However, for people who are similar to me,
Mhm.
that their brain is on a high frequency, I'm gonna call it frequency. I do things to help settle my brain because my brain is always thinking. I'm always thinking. So I settle it. And so I learn to do things to help calm my brain and my thought process so that I can transform my life, right? So now it's a little different. I'm no longer a score mentor, not because I don't have the capacity or capability. It's because I made a decision that there's other things that I want to do. So in transition, know that there's still movement and you continue to move in transition regardless. Let's look at a parent. Now she's the family has an empty nest, right? They need to transition. There's stuff they need to do, right? And I have a person right now that I work with, and they're really going through because they don't want to. This is they'll be an empty nester, and they're saying, "Well, what? How? Why do I come home?
But I
You come
think
home for you."
sometimes, especially as even a parent, your
Hmm.
identity can get caught up in being in those roles that you play. And I really do think it's important that we find identity in who we are and that we make sure as I'm investing in my kids and all of that, that I'm still doing things for myself as
Right.
well. And
Right.
so uh I wanted go ahead.
The one thing,
Mhm.
there's three major questions. I'm only going
Yes.
to address one. One major question that you ask yourself, even at this point, not in retirement, not officially in transition, is who am I?
Mm.
Who am I without the position? Who am I without whatever? Without, let's say I'm in a meaningful relationship. Who am I?
Yeah.
Who are you? Right? And the more we define or understand or love us, the better we are as we move forward.
And I think it's okay that these things add to us, but it
Oh,
shouldn't be
yeah.
all of me. Does that make sense? So I know
Right.
being a mom, things changed, but then also there's nothing wrong with people that don't have kids. Like I love the aunties and uncles that can spoil my kiddo because they have excess time and
Cash.
resources.
Right. Right.
I don't mind.
Right.
And because I think sometimes people put their identity in, oh, if I'm not in a relationship, if I'm not, if I'm not making at least this much a year. Now it's different if I need to make enough to thrive, to survive, thrive, all of
Right.
those things, but making sure that I know I have worth and value outside of those things. I know there are
Right.
people listening that struggle with chronic illness, and I've worked with people that have had to accept on certain days they're going to have different limitations. Like some days they might, be able to clean for an hour, and there might be another day that's a high pain day and they might not be able to do as much and produce as much. And I think we still have value even when we can't do the things. Now doing the
That's
things feels
wonderful.
good. Okay? Like it feels good to I'm a big checklist person. I like I like getting things done. I like accomplishing things, but being able to and Sarah, I see you. You don't need to start fake crying for attention. Uh,
I,
being
I
able
saw that too. I'm about to start crying. I, I love it, Sarah. I can't focus you. I love it. Okay.
but
Go ahead.
but being able to realize, because sometimes when you retire it really can, or like when you change a job, or when you send a kid off to school for the first time, or they transition to middle school, or because recently a local middle school wants me to talk with the parents And the big thing that happens in middle school is it's normal for the kids to start disconnecting from the parents and trying to connect with friends. Issues can come when they're not connecting with friends that the parents agree with, but managing those transitions can be really helpful. So can you go ahead and give the other ones, because I want to know, but you don't have to right now.
Okay, so another one is, the first one is, who am I? Why am I here?
Mm,
Is the other
purpose.
one. So a right purpose, and that's the key. Remember, I said I retired to purpose. Somebody said, "Oh, why are you retiring?" Because I didn't need to retire, right? And I loved my job. They said, "Why?" However, I found a greater purpose.
Mm,
So purpose. Retired to purpose. So why am I here? What Who am I? Why am I here? And the third one is an element of loving yourself and loving others.
mm,
So when I say that, I'm not saying, there's several different kinds of love, right? So the real one is, when do I see me? Do I see me? Not do other people see me, because that's an outward thing, right? There's so many times we do things that are outward.
yeah.
We do outward seeing, but do we do inward feeding?
Hmm.
I'm going to say it again. We do outward seeing, we show up for other people. Do we do inward feeding? Do we feed ourselves? And that is so critical. And that is the other question. How am I feeding am I on my list? I was never on my list. Patrice is right. I'm telling you, I would come home and it's like, but part of it was, I'm working hard. She lived this life. And I'm thinking, are you going to sit around chilling? You need to. And so when she would say, I'm going to be a hairstylist, I never knocked what she said she wanted to do. However, I always looked at her and said, "Do you like the way you live? Do you like?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah." I said, "You might want to be the owner of the beauty shop." You know what I'm saying? So encourage ourselves and others to be who they desire to be in the moment, and give us, ourselves and others, the ability, the flexibility, the room, runway, like a plane, runway to lift.
And I really, and then what was number three? Because there were three. Did you say
So
all
who
three?
am I? You know what? I can't play with you right now. This is
You're
my
like,
only
I
child,
wasn't
y'all.
planning.
So it's, who am I? What was the second one,
Why?
baby?
It was like why,
Why
or
am I
like it was
here?
purpose. Yeah.
It was purpose. Why am I here? And then why am I here? And then and let me think of the third one.
Okay. So we are going to listen to something really quick,
I
because
know.
I think it'll be helpful for our conversation, and I will put a link to the full podcast down in the description. But it's Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong, but the sacrifice of friendships for success. We're going to listen to that section. They're talking about friendship, loneliness, and vulnerability. And this was a really, really powerful conversation. This part stood out to me quite a bit.
Friend of mine
Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, we're good. All right, let's listen to this.
actually said to me on a trip recently, she said, in successful spaces, oftentimes people will use the word sacrifice. We heard many people, we heard Martin, we heard so many people up on the stage saying sacrifice, 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 sacrifice. And she said one of the most powerful things ever to me. She said, when we say we've sacrificed something for our career, we shouldn't be afraid to put a name to who that sacrifice was, because oftentimes it was the people in our lives that we call friends.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know, have you been thinking about that? Like, what is the balance? What is the confluence? Like, how do you think of friendship and then the sacrifice that brings you here to sit with people where you may make new friends or not?
Well, I think definitely for me, and I can't speak for anybody else, but definitely for me, I think the sacrifice was lopsided. And I think, especially for high performers who who I think later on in life, you start to realize that that network of friends sometimes isn't there because you've sacrificed. You know, the number of us who have canceled on friends because a meeting comes up,
Yeah.
because they'll understand,
Yeah.
right? And yet the reverse is very rarely true, that we'll say to somebody for a meeting, can we meet on Friday instead of Thursday? Because in my calendar, we wouldn't say it, but in my calendar is a friend. And definitely for me, the times where I have tripped, slipped, fell, hit rock bottom, felt alone, any of those spaces, my work wasn't going to rescue me. And it was by the grace of some higher power that there was always a friend who saw it and recognized it in me, who picked me up. And so I realized that we talk about investing, we talk about you know, and this is a different kind of investment. You and I were talking about it the other day, you know, which is people are moving in the United States, you know, people are moving from California and New York to Texas and Florida to avoid paying taxes because they want to save time. And yet, where else? I want it to be the reverse. Like, I want to, like, I'm not worried about like saving the money, you know, to be in a place I don't want to live.
Right.
I want to live with the people I love, and if it costs more, and by the way, by cost, I mean that maybe I won't achieve that thing, or maybe I'll miss that deadline, or maybe I'll miss that quarter. You know, it's a different kind of sacrifice. We think of sacrifice as always against people, but I can make a sacrifice for my career, for my friends, and it's about striking that right balance. Because your friends will be there for you, your work won't.
Yeah, you see, I love that line. Your friends will be there for you, your work won't. I was talking to a friend about this conversation, and my friend was like, what do you love about Simon so much? And I said, what I love about Simon is this, I feel like you're a truffle pig of like ideas that will shape the world. And what I mean by that is, what I mean by that is like,
so I'm French.
Yeah, whatever you choose to take from it, take from it. What I choose to say by saying that is,
thank you.
I love seeing what you're sniffing around in because I believe it's connected to something far greater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not the truffle, but it's the meal that is now going to influence and the restaurant that it's now going to shape. You have that brain. It's friendship, yes, but why would you care about friendship? Friendship is like, yeah, go out with your friends, hang out with your friends. Why would you care about friendship on like a global scale? What's in it, Simon? What's happening?
So let me take one step back and try and get to an answer. Our understanding of addiction largely comes from an experiment that was done, I think, in like the 50s or 60s, where they put a rat in a cage. There was one thing of water where it was plain water and one thing that was laced with drugs.
Right.
And in short order, the rat discovered the drug-laced beverage and loved it, drank more and more until it killed itself. And our understanding of addiction largely comes from this study. There was a guy named, I think his name was Bruce Alexander, who said, hold on, it's flawed. The whole study is flawed.
Oh.
Because rats, like us, are social animals. And we put a rat by itself in solitude. Of course it became an addict. But that's not what you're supposed to do with social animals. So he recreated the experiment where he put, like, first of all, he put lots of rats in the cage.
No way.
So social, community. They put like wheels and mazes, and they were having kids and babies, and two waters, a plain water and the drug-laced water. And they could see from the data, they knew which ones, and they all tried enough of the drug-laced water to get addicted.
Right.
But they didn't. Their taking in of the water declined, and they only drank the plain water, which starts to give evidence that if we have close friendships and if we live in community, perhaps we're less susceptible to all addiction. And I know that there's a lot being talked about the addiction of social media, the addiction of cell phones, which is true. Which is true. It is a highly dopamine-producing device, and that it's causing loneliness. And I would argue that if we worked on the friendships, and more important, if we taught our children how to be friends, that perhaps they are less likely to get addicted. And I think, and I think, so when you talk about what's the global responsibility, we're teaching people how to do everything. You know, we're finding the hacks for everything. The one thing we aren't doing is the old-fashioned, hard, slow thing of making friends.
So,
all right. What are some of your thoughts?
Wow. I'm going to start by saying this. This is so perfect for the third piece. And thank you, Chris. The third piece is, do you see me?
Ah, okay.
That's the
Wow.
third question. Do you see me? And so it's funny that I couldn't remember it. And then they were talking, and I said, that's right. I forgot. I had already thought about, do you see me? And that's where we are, is, do you see me? Now there's some, do you hear? I got all that, but do you see me? Acknowledge me, community, all of those things. My thoughts for that is this: in no one has ever been in their last moments of life, and they thought, you know what? I wish I had worked 4 more hours, or I wish I had accomplished da da da. They're looking at their life from the relational perspective. That is the thing that drives us. We are emotional, community. We are relationship type people, right? We love that. And at the same time, we have to remember that there is AI, artificial intelligence, right? However, when I do some training, I do AI at the next level. And people say, what does that mean? It's it's authentic interactions. Authentic interactions is what we all crave.
And
We want,
I wanna
yeah,
highlight something because Sarah said women are relationship based, but men actually are too.
men are too.
And there is an epidemic of loneliness in like adolescent boys because boys tend to have close friendships in elementary school, and then in middle school to have close friends, sometimes people can get like to hug a friend, or like sometimes there can be teasing that happens, and boys, and even into high school, they also have that need for friendship. But sometimes there can be this play that like masculinity means being the lone wolf, not needing anyone, and that is false. Research has shown us that when boys have healthy relationships, healthy connections, it can be a protective factor for things like depression and anxiety and all of those things. I think we raise men and boys sometimes to be more material based, like you're saying, Sarah. But I think at their core, because that's where it's who I am and who I portray myself to be. And deep down, when they sit down with a researcher, they talk about wanting relationships, wanting those things, but not wanting to be rejected by their peers, or not wanting some of that negativity.
And it is the belonging. It is the provider,
Yeah.
especially men in our area, because I'm a boomer, and they were taught the way you show your power, the way you show your family your love, the way you exert all of those things is by what they have.
Mhm.
Not, and so a lot of people, not just men, but especially men, will go out and they'll work, and then they'll come home one day and nobody's there, and they're saying, what happened? I mean, I gave you the house, I gave you all the stuff, but they were looking for the other side. So we teach young women to be very maternal and to have these emotional and embrace all of that. But when boys do that, people have in the past had the tendency to say, suck it up, be a
Yeah.
man, and like men didn't have emotions, and that is not correct.
Yeah.
And so it's how they um and then when they come out with, I'm gonna call it negative emotions,
Mhm.
where it's physical, it's things like that, then that's the way they're showing up. It's because they had pent up. And this is not the answer. Y'all know I don't have no side D.
Yeah.
So this is not the complete answer. Patrice will explain really. So I'm saying there's some pent up feelings. But however, now there's some pent up feelings in all of us because we believe that, or we've seen that, especially younger people, they believe people on social media are their friends. That's not the people that we call friends. And that's not the people that Simon Sinek and they're talking about as friends. They're talking about people who are authentically in a relationship where you've built them and you know them, and they know you.
We match, and we didn't even do it on purpose.
Oh
We
my
both have
gosh,
on
I
red
didn't
and blue.
even notice that. I didn't even notice that until right now.
Somebody, thank you, Shell. Like I didn't, and
I
we
didn't
do this.
even notice
We
it.
do this on accident.
You guys are
So
twitting. Yeah, I did not even notice that.
if you go back to the podcast, because we used to record in person, and there's even an episode of a after, because I used to stream it live on TikTok as well, and we did like this after hour thing where we are just going off,
Off
like
the
not but like in a
chain.
good, like we are just laughing.
Yeah.
And so there is a whole Legacy Moments podcast right on my channel. You can also check out my mom's channel as well. She does educational videos, and but
Yeah,
getting
but
back
go back
to
and look at that. Yeah, go back and look at that, guys, because sometimes you need to hear things at a different level so that you can chew it.
Mhm,
Very, it's easier, and so we have fun. We have this, and
dynamic.
again, didn't even notice we have the same color on. However, that is the thing about relationship. There is a connection at a different level. It's not just surface. Go ahead, Patrice.
No. I'm
Patrice,
easily
Patrice.
distractible.
Oh,
Probably
get
got
the
the
glasses.
AD.
It's a wrap. Uh-oh.
Um,
Mm.
and so with relationships, friendships, with looking at retirement transitions, adjusting to life, because I've also worked with people that have had a family member get a a diagnosis, and they know that the family member is going to have to go through some care. Hopefully they're able to recover well from it, but sometimes there's that fear of the what ifs, and that's where I really encourage, 'cause sometimes there can be this grief of, if my family member is struggling medically, should I enjoy my life? Like there can be this guilt that comes up of their struggling, I should be struggling too. And I think there's a way where I can still internally, you know, have concerns for them, but that my life doesn't have to stop. Because if that family member is healthy, because they only want your life to stop if they're a narcissist, and that's a whole other like that's a whole other video. A healthy family member would want you to still support them, you to be there for them, but they wouldn't want your life to stop because of their diagnosis. Oh,
That's really powerful, Patrice, because that's the same thing in transition when someone is transitioning, regardless of the situation, is there are some things we walk and we have support, but that goes back to how I feel about me. Who am I? At my very DNA, at my core, I don't want you to suffer because I'm suffering. And
mhm.
the other side is I want you to be healthy so you can help me, so that when you come into the room, you don't feel like you can't laugh or we can't talk about life, because what happens is I want to still be attached to life or I wouldn't be fighting.
Yeah, I
So
like
that
that.
is something.
So
Mhm.
like you living your life can give them hope of,
Yeah.
and to me it makes them want to live to see that life too. And that's where I don't want work to become so much, and for me to invest all of my time into work. There was a story that I heard about. um I'm gonna share um a link to this. um All right. So trigger warning for death and loss. We're not going to see it or anything, but we are just going to talk about this. A woman in Arizona worked at Wells Fargo, 60 years old, and she went to work Friday morning, and then was found deceased. It's my understanding, I believe on that Monday, and she likely died at her desk sometime on Friday. She had a medical emergency, and nobody knew. It was a very quiet office building where there really weren't that many people that were on, or there really weren't people on that floor, so nobody noticed until that other day. And because there are people that retire and then they've given all that they had, to their job, and then they end up like dying a month after retirement or something. And so that's where, to me, the job, I love those things of like when people, if they know that they're dying, they don't think about, oh, I wish I had sent that email. I wish I had scheduled that meeting. They're normally thinking about their relationships, their friendships, their purpose, they're normally thinking about those things. They're not thinking about their work. And so it's so lopsided to me when we get all of our worth and value from our work, but it it's sometimes, no, now my job has to feed me. Does that make sense? So like but I don't want to work so much that that then, or like that the job has all of this in my life that I lose the people I love in the midst of it, including myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a powerful statement. Um, because okay, so I love examples. Y'all know if
Mhm,
y'all haven't, yeah. So it's like a bank, and I love that you just mentioned Wells Fargo because it reminded me of this.
mhm,
So it's a bank. So in life, it's we need. I recommend you deposit in your bank account, your personal bank account, right? Because when people come to draw on that bank account, they don't ask if there's funds in the bank account. They
yeah,
just start drawing because other people have needs, or we build relation, whatever it is, right? People will come and draw, whether it be work, whether it be our faith, our belief system, our kids, whatever it is, they start pulling it. It is our responsibility to continue to put money in that bank account. So put money, put investments, put things that serve you, put laughter, put joy in your life. And that way, when other people come to pull, to talk to you, to whatever, you can start building some amazing boundaries
mhm.
to determine what you can and desire to do, and not feel guilty when you don't. So one of the things Patrice talked about, I would like to address for just a second, is to focus on relationships. When you're moving or transitioning, remember about relationships. Strengthen the important relationships in our lives, and don't become fearful is as you move forward, you stop seeing certain people in your life. Patrice mentioned it earlier. Everybody didn't come. It's okay. There's new people ahead of you to connect with you, to build on, and to move forward. And then refine is what I call in retirement. Look at you refining, redefining. Let me go there. Redefining what you desire at this moment of your life. And if you can, do
Uh,
it in advance so that you have it kind of set up. It won't be perfect, but it will be something that you can do in advance, whether it be money, because some people, and please don't say this, people that are retiring, please don't say this. I'm living on limited income. Uh it's only who limited it? Because I'm retired doesn't mean I'm not telling you go to Walmart and get a cart. I'm telling you there are other ways that you can increase your income if that's what you need to do. However, look at building a life that you have excess now, so when you move into retirement or you transition forward or something happens in life, you have an account that you can go play in. You can
and And Sarah mentioned something, because it can be hard for people with chronic pain that end up retiring not by choice. So sometimes people, they get to a place where they can't do their job anymore. I've worked with service members that have been medically retired, And so when you get to a place where you just can't do the work anymore, that can bring up a lot of grief. Make sure to check out the playlist. We have talked about grief and different things before. Oh, somebody mentioned love, and I know Love from Virginia Tech back in the day. It's so cool seeing like real life people. But her recent book that she's enjoying is Life is in the Transitions by Bruce Feeler. Y'all know me in names. I'm bad with names. So
That's
thank you.
great.
Thank you for mentioning that one. Mama, go ahead and think about your closing thoughts. I will go
Okay.
ahead and go first. So to close things out, really the goal of this was to just talk about, number one, transitions can be hard, and acknowledging that. And at the same time, I can also have um the story that I tell myself about it is important. And what I mean by that is, let's say I do have to retire and it's not really my choice. I want to focus on what is in my control, because I can't control the fact that somebody else maybe determined I had to retire, or my doctor strongly recommending, or my body just can't. I just can't continue. But what I can look at is what I do still have available, the things that I can still do. Because yes, I can't do that job anymore. I can't do this anymore, but I do have these other things that I can do. I can, Sarah Adams, I can spam Dr. Barry's chat like for an entire 50 minutes. I
I
adore
love it.
you all. I adore you.
Wow.
And
So, oh,
but
go ahead.
making sure that as I move forward, that because my brain is automatically going to focus on the things that are going wrong, the bad things, because our brains are wired to survive. We are naturally going to do that. But I have to look at what are the opportunities that have come in the midst of this challenge, in the midst of this issue. I can still validate that it hurts. I'm upset about it. I don't like it. And at the same time, there are also some possible benefits that I'm getting out of it too. So those are my final thoughts. I so appreciate you all. Gonna give it off to Mama for her thoughts.
Wow, thank you. I'm gonna just tag piggyback on what everything Patrice said, and in addition to that, what I would like to remind all of us, especially because some of us are younger than others, is that when you look at money, most people work for money, which could mean that money is the master. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say it again. Some people work for money because money is then becomes their master, right?
Hmm.
So some people work for money, and then in the latter years, you have to be careful with that, because sometimes in the latter years, what happens is you release your money for your health.
Hmm.
So you work for money, you got the money now, you're retired or whatever happens. Now you need to take those resources to gain back your health. So, what I would like you to look at, even in this moment, regardless of where you are, age, stage of life, regardless, is to look at what what is a healthier version of you,
Hmm.
mentally, emotionally, financially, spiritually, whatever. What is a healthier version of you? Don't look at all of them on the same day, because that could be overwhelming. Take one and deal with that one and just kind of play out that. And then the other thing is I would like you to consider is to stay in a place of gratitude.
Hmm.
So whether that's gratitude journal gratitude every day, to be thankful, because we can always find someone that's doing a little bit different than we are. However, being in that place of gratitude will build strength in every area of life and cause endorphins um, to pop in and encourage you to move forward. That's what I would say.
I love that.
Thank you.
And Uh, we got a great question, and I will
Okay.
let us. So we're gonna just take a few minutes to answer this one. And I put a link to a previous episode in the description, and I also put it in the chat. But what's the best way to stay balanced?
Okay.
So sometimes you might have intentional unbalance. And what I mean by that is, so at some point, I'm going to finish my second book. It's probably not going to be by the end of the year. It's probably not going to be, but it's definitely going to be before the end of May, maybe June. I'm gonna do it. But whenever I get down to the final like month or so or 2 weeks, I'm gonna be very not balanced because I'm gonna warn my husband. I'm gonna warn my kid because I'm gonna like lock myself in my office and just disappear and get a whole bunch of stuff done. I might, not be able to do, YouTube videos for those few weeks. Like I'm gonna have to focus on getting that done. So I might have a period of time that's intentionally not balanced because I have the thing. I remember when my mom, so this time of year is closing for the government. She was a financial, I know, like she was a financial a financial analyst for the
Um,
military or
it
what
doesn't
do
matter.
you call it? Okay, but
It
she
doesn't matter.
managed
Yeah.
billion-dollar budgets, and the end of September was always she's going to be working like 15, 20 hour, like ridiculous days because they have to get it done. And she would normally take some vacation, or she would leave work early, or she would intentionally try to rest after that period of time. So our life is never going to be perfectly balanced because our kids don't look at our schedule and say, "Oh, it looks like you're free on Thursday. I'm going to get sick that day." Your kid is going to get sick at the worst possible time. And now I have to I have to figure out what to do, how to do it. And so I don't think perfect balance is possible, but I listen to my body, and when I get a crick in my neck, I know I'm doing too much. When I I have my signs, and you probably have your signs of when things aren't balanced. My family also gives me feedback too. Of you're on your phone too much, or you're disconnected. Like my family will give me feedback too. What did you want to say about this one?
I love what she said about intentionally, I'm going to say imbalance.
Hmm.
So I may take a moment to do that, but you asked a question that I really want us to just chime in on briefly.
Yes.
Is
One.
a part about the weekly. Should I look at it weekly?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that, and just reiterate what Patrice said. I don't think you can wait till weekly. Life is not like that. Life be lifing is what I call it. Life be lifing. So it's like, what do you? I plan my day the day before.
Yeah.
Then I give myself three main things I want to accomplish. Then I give myself the freedom to handle and manage what's happening in the now. We can be so future focused that we don't embrace the nowness of life. So enjoy the nowness. When our child comes up to us and they want us to look at something, take a moment and look at it, right? Because they'll remember that. So do the things for the nowness of life
Mm,
and do that. So and realize this. The last, yeah, give yourself grace, Sarah.
I
That's
love that.
exactly. And then the other thing, because we give grace to others, but we don't give grace to ourselves. So the other thing that she addressed is, remember when everybody talks about let's be balanced, let's be balanced, let's be balanced. That's a lie. It's a lie. It's a Listen to me. It's a
unless
lie.
unless they have a
Balance
staff.
is a lie.
Unless I think some people saying it have somebody cleaning their house. They
No, it's
have
still a
help.
lie. It's a lie. There is nobody anywhere that's balanced. Let me
Perfect.
tell you why. In
Yeah.
the next second, when something happens that you did not control,
Expect.
that you did not know was going to happen, you are going straight. Your car is full, everything is going well, and somebody cuts you off. I'm sorry, something just happened. So we're not. So give yourself the grace to understand that intentional imbalance
Mhm.
is what you can drive for.
Yeah.
Intentional. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean you just let your life go away, but look at intentionality and do that.
I
Okay.
love that. Please make sure that you let us know what topics you would like for us to cover in the future. My email is info at drpatriceberry.com. I'm pretty sure in YouTube, if you click email me or something, it will come directly to my email. And I truly, truly thank you all for being here. My mom is phenomenal. She is my one of my best friends, and we've talked about our relationship and how we kind of got to this point. And our relationship continues to change and adjust as we grow, as we learn, as we move forward, and as life happens, because life be lifing. And so I am just so thankful for you all. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.